something we all need. Gotta have it now if you wanna succeed. Striving, surviving, that's no doubt. Sticking together, we gon' find a way out. To all you young people, give it your all. To all you young people, give it your all. To all you young people, give it your all. To all you young people, give it your all.
Good morning, the back community. Thank you as always for staying involved. Thank you for staying engaged. Today I have a fellow JCSU alumnus. So shout out to Johnson C. Smith in here. But today we have Dr. Ebonee Mayo-Mitchell, who's going to be gracing our platform today. And we're going to talk everything from college admissions to scholarships to getting your students and the families prepared to go off this fall to their colleges and universities throughout the nation. But first things first, Ebonee, thank you very much for affording me your time today. I truly appreciate it. And I couldn't wait to get you on the podcast, and it was perfect timing. So thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so happy to be here.
Woohoo! Let me see, man. I've gotten a chance to work with you last year, and now going to be this year on one of the big events that you do to dedicate time, energy, money to children, and that is your scholarship ball. But I'm gonna come back to that one later. But I can't wait to highlight that and to dive into that a little bit more. I know who you are, so let me not be selfish. A lot of the back community podcasts or my audience might not know who you are, so I'm gonna hit you with your first official question. You ready?
Yep.
All right. Dr. Ebonee, please tell the back community more about yourself, what kind of work you do, how you got into your work. Here's your opportunity to introduce yourself to the back community.
Okay. Hey, back community. My name is Dr. Ebonee Mayo-Mitchell, and I'm an education consultant. What that basically means is I help families navigate this college process. This maze is very difficult, so I help from creating the college list, writing essays, scholarship searching, college tours, all to the day you actually move into that campus. We want to help make sure you make the best decisions for your family.
Okay. And you do all of this through a business organization called?
So the name of my company is called Collegeprep365. 365 days we think about college. So simple name to remember.
Okay. All right. Now, what was it about admissions in this process that led you to start your own business and come up with College Prep 365? What was it about the educational space that you're so passionate about?
Yeah, so I grew up in Prince George's County, which is deemed the richest Black county in the country at that time. And most of the data when I was in my PhD program is around African Americans' low social economic status, right? But I knew that was different for me and my friends. All of us went to college and we chose them for different reasons. So I wanted to add to that space as a researcher. And then it turned into, maybe I should add to that space as helping families now, where people who are affluent, maybe working in the government or IT, they need help with their students coming up, because we don't get as many resources because you're considered traditional middle-class families. So I wanted to make sure that I was impacting in that way, because no matter if you're rich or poor, you need help understanding college. So
Absolutely. I literally just had a conversation with a woman on Facebook the other day about the gentleman that interviewed two interviews before you, but he was just talking about how he was at Morehouse and he didn't have enough money. So they let him know on a Tuesday that, he wasn't paying enough, he didn't have enough. And by Friday, he got booted off campus, right? And just started a whole dialogue between her and I. And she was just saying how colleges need to do more educating to students and families up front and throughout the process. And that's why, I know you help navigate those spaces, especially up front, like preparing yourself for what to expect from your application process itself, to helping to narrow it down to the appropriate schools for families, because those are like adult decisions, and a lot of times we put those adult decisions in the hands and comfort of kids who don't really know how to make the most financial decisions for that. But
And it's the first major decision any 17-year-old makes. It's the first major decision. They're just saying, pick your future. How do you do that at 17? Right? It's hard.
It's crazy that you say that, it's the first major decision. I'm just thinking about all the other decisions that could come up before school, especially for me. It's just like, wow, you got sex, you got friends, you got gangs, you got all types of stuff, but it's just like that one right there is definitely, yes, major and tied to.
You do some of those other things that you named, the outcome might not be bad, right? So this is when you're thinking, this is a pivotal decision that decides, 1, 4 years, 2, what type of internships I might be available to me, what kind of job, where am I going to live for the rest of my life? This is the first major decision.
I like it. I like it. And before I go further, please tell the audience how Dr. Ebonee came to be. I know I shouted out Johnson C. Smith, but I know you are a lover of all things education, and you have a longer list for your degree. So let everybody know where that, how that passion for education started and where it took you.
Okay, so yeah, I went to Johnson C. Smith and got my BA in communications. I went on to Howard University to get an MA in communications. Then I got an MED from Howard in education administration and policy to understand the laws. And then I went to Morgan and got my terminal PhD in higher ed administration, where I focused on college choice and African-American students. So yeah, and a funny little story with that, our university president, Dr. Yancey, made me go to grad school. I didn't want to go to grad school. I was like, oh, I'm done with this mess. But seeing her love for figuring out finances for us at that university and then showing up for students turned into something that I really loved. And I wanted to give back like that.
I love it. I love it. Shout out to Dr. Yancey, the Yancey years.
Yes.
But yeah, and it's just like, so you are a 3-time alumnus of HBCU?
Yeah, well, they technically say 4 technically, because you graduate 4. It's 3 schools.
Oh,
yeah.
Yep. So shout out to the HBCU, shout out to Howard, shout out to Morgan, shout out to Johnson C. Smith. But the reason why I wanted to say that is because understanding your path or your pursuit to not only get the credentials to do what you do, but to know that it comes from not only your traditional learning that you've learned, but also firsthand experience of working with and being a student at these different universities as well, which I think helps.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you go to different things, HBCs are coined as administration is a difficult road to navigate. So it prepares you for life. But I have studied at PWI, University of Maryland, did the consortium program with Howard, and to see how the structure of that administration works. So I'm pretty versed in administration of colleges, and they're all different, but they're all fun.
Okay. All right. And shout out to PG County. I know you recognize that, man. I'm a PG County person now myself. Yeah. I know we're not we're not number 1 anymore. We're number 2. I think Charles County has it now, but it's right there too.
Yeah.
Let me see. One of the things that I really love about this platform is because I get a chance to showcase you and interact with you in ways that some people may not ever get a chance to really do. And behind every professional, there is a story, there's a person. And I want to dive into that story and that person that makes you uniquely you. So I want to ask you a few questions, which will help me to understand how you got to be, and then I'm going to finish elaborating on where you are currently and what you're doing with Collegeprep365.
Okay, cool.
All right. So because education is on the menu today, thinking about your younger self, thinking about the younger Ebonee, knowing the things that you know now as it pertains to education, both from a student role and from an administrator role, what is something you wish someone would have taught or told the younger Ebonee that you know now, but you didn't know then?
I think that one thing I would like that I wish someone would tell me that it's okay to change paths. That you don't have to be so defined and think that this is the only path to success. As we get older, we learn, right, that I might pivot and I like this, but I like this as well, and I can do multiple things in this lifetime, right? So I think that's something I wish someone would have told me.
Okay. Okay. All right. All right. Let me see. And I know you mentioned, especially when you got to college, the influence that Dr. Yancey left on you. But what about before you got to college? When you were growing up, you were still the young Ebonee before she became Dr. Ebonee. Did you have mentors? Were you influenced by anyone that pushed you in certain ways? I like to gauge to see like what kind of support system you had. What kind of did you have a mentor, and what was the impact of that if you did?
Okay, so yeah, young Ebonee had, I don't want to say a specific mentor. Obviously, my mom was my mentor like everyone else. My mom was a psychologist from an HBCU, so she definitely talked about HBCUs all the time, and all her friends were successful. So I'll say it was a group, the Future Portfolios, their investment club, they were all influential of me wanting to be a successful woman. But I also ran track. Shout out to Glen Martin Track, the largest track team in the country. So there was very successful people around me who showed me that you can do anything in any field. You just have to pick something and stick with it. So I won't say one specific person. Yeah, didn't have
Okay.
one.
Okay. Okay. Bad at all.
But you know, PG County has a lot of people, and a lot of people pour into you. And I know, like, even going on the Delta College tour, I didn't know those women before that week, but they poured into me as well. Things that you don't realize as a student, someone is pouring into you, right?
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
like,
Or why? Or
huh?
why?
Why they care? Why do they care about me? They don't know me.
Yep. That was a weird one for me. It's like when someone was trying to do something nice for me, and I'd be like, "What do you want?" Like, or why are you doing this? And be like, but people will realize what they had to go through and how they wish someone would have intervened or helped out. And it might just be a small gesture. It's like, hey, I brought you a meal, or, come wash your clothes up over here or something like that. But
I think when we think about Prince George's County and Washington, D.C., or your LAs and your New Yorks, you think about there are not as many programs for students who are in that programs for middle class students, right? So you really don't get touched by someone doing something special all the time for you. So that's why I mentioned like the Deltas and people like that, because you couldn't get into the other programs because your parent made over $50,000 at that time. You don't get certain things that students were afforded in the 90s.
I like that. I like that too, because it points out a really huge distinction. It's like you think that the only populations that need services or assistance or guidance are the lower economic populations, but you also realize that by focusing so much there or solely on there's also a middle population that typically gets left behind or left out of different activities that can be just as beneficial to them.
Yeah, and that's a huge part of it. And that's the reason why I do the things I do, whether it's in Collegeprep365 or personal. I want to make sure that all kids, no 16 to 18-year-old knows what they're trying to do, regardless of how much money their parent has. And that's just a clear cut of that.
Okay. All right. Tell me more about Collegeprep365. What age range do you typically work with? When do you start engaging with your participants? And what has it been like being the sole controller or the influencer on the direction that a lot of your participants may go?
Yeah, so we started in 2014. We went to a college fair. Alfred Street Baptist Church had this HBCU college fair. I set up a table with a landing page, and I was like, yeah, I'm 10% lower than whatever anyone tells you. And we built the business that way. But honestly, so a lot of my clients start in the 11th grade, January of the middle of the 11th grade year, because you're about to take your SAT or ACT. And so we want to get you before you get in the nitty gritty of the process. In an ideal world, it's best to start in the 10th grade, but in the minority communities, we start most of my clients come July and August of the summer before the senior year, and which is okay, as long as we're able to work hard for about 5 months, then it pays off. But in an ideal world, we would love you to start at the 10th grade and start thinking about it. But a typical day-to-day looks like writing essays with students, editing, helping them to understand what story they want to tell, the narrative, because some of us have different experiences, and we might not want that university to know that, because once you put that in an essay, people might ask you questions about that. So helping students understand different avenues, what options, exposing them to colleges that they haven't heard of is the biggest thing, right? Most people know your Howards, your Penn State, your USC, right? And they know all the schools in the tournament. But what about those other 3,000 schools out there in this country that don't get the highlight? So we try to expose people. Exposure is everything.
Facts. I agree with everything that you said, starting with exposure all the way back to when you want to start getting these kids prepared for school. Oftentimes we're not looking at schools until your junior, senior year, as you said, most times even just your senior year. But there was a book that I read.
I read that book.
You read this book?
Yeah.
Okay. Listen, and it changed everything for me. So shout out to my man Ayo on Debt Free Degree. But in reading his book, he pointed out that we need to start on the exposure route as early as 7th to 8th grade.
Well, elementary.
Or elementary, but definitely 7th, 8th grade. He talked about what you just said, how a lot of us don't start that college process or the preparation until junior, senior year, where we're really so far behind the 8 ball already. We really need to start exposure to that other word, 7th, 8th grade on up, and consistently doing it.
We want to, and we have to do it kind of softly, if that's not a better word for that, because sometimes you can deter the student from college. So the reason being we don't press students until high school is because we don't want to make you say, I don't want to do this at all. Like somebody's feeling something into you so much, but the exposure, we have a lot more elementary schools that are doing the redesigns of elementary and K-12 that are bringing college to these kids or taking them on college tours. They don't know why they're going to this campus. They just see big kids, right? But they're going to remember that later on, right? And then in 7th grade, you might go on a day tour and you see something that might spark an interest. But then when you get to high school, it's more repetitive. Like, okay, here's go some majors, bringing back career day. That's a big thing that people are starting to do again. Like, so if I'm exposing the student to 8 different things in biology, they don't think, oh, I only can be a pediatrician. I can be an OBGYN. I can be in the lab. I can do this, X, Y, and Z. So that's what we mean by exposure in different ways throughout those pivotal years of grade school.
Okay. I like it, man. I know it made a huge difference for me. It made a huge difference for me coming up in Albany. Like there's probably about 7 or 8 different colleges or universities right there in that area. And I barely went to none of them.
Really?
So none of them. So, I was involved in all types of stuff. So, but there was one that I did go to, and that was the University of Albany, but I primarily went there to go play basketball or to chase women. Okay. I didn't go there for the exposure, and that's one of the things that I talk about often when I'm in crowds and in spaces in the Capital District area. Is just like we got 8 universities right here, right? So we need to start exposing our kids earlier on to these different universities that are right here. On top of exposing the kids to these universities, ensuring that the universities get more connected to the communities in which they're in. right? Because most times people will go to school and they're not from that area, and they be like, oh, those just the locals. Don't mess with the locals or whatever. But we miss out on the opportunity to bring people in and make them parts of those communities that they're going to school in, because we don't make that connection from the colleges or universities to the communities. And that's one of the things that I learned. And now, I try to encourage that a little bit more. Like, don't just dismiss the locals wherever you're at, find ways to get active and involved.
That's such a hard task, because I mean, the university is in charge of these students' safety, right? And I sent my child to your school and you said you'll keep them safe. But now you want to mix them in. It's just a hard thing for administration. So there's a lot of things, like, I think it's great and I think they should do, but safety standpoints, people are like, oh, how much do you open certain things up? But I definitely think it's something as we go on, we have to, infuse campus and community together more and more.
I like that point too. I definitely didn't consider it, because I'm just like, well, it's available. We should be doing it, but yet safety is a huge
time something
one.
happens, then you're going to be like, well, the university left.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. And we live in a litigious society, so no, good point. Good point.
Yeah. Another thing about college prep that we do, we also expose parents, right? As parents, and I don't have children, but many of my clients have went to college 20 years ago, right? The experience is totally different. And we want to make sure that students are allowed to be in the driver's seat of the process, right? We want you to be in the passenger holding on, but we want them to kind of guide it. The reason I say that, a lot of parents have a university that they like, or they wish they could have, right? Or like we just talked about Howard or Johnson C. Smith, it's near and dear to me, but that might not be right for my child.
Facts.
Right. And if you drill that from kindergarten to 12th grade and keep dragging me to this homecoming, and I don't want to go to this school, but how do I tell you who is my number one supporter that I don't want to go there? I do a lot of that. I have kids boo-hooing.
Is the pressure that hard?
It is, because guess what? You are my everything. You told me that I could be anything I want to do, but I don't want to hurt you, nor do I want to make you upset that I didn't choose your alma mater. That is at least, so right now I have a load of 121 going off to college. At least 40 of them, 42 exactly, have that situation. Like, I don't want to go there. And one lady flying the girl from LA to Grambling like 3 times this year. Like, I just want her to see how great it is. And she's like, I don't in the sticks. She's from LA. She cannot understand going to the backwoods to go to college. Yeah. So, I mean, that is a big thing as minorities that we push.
Just hearing you say it, I'm over there like, damn, is it that real? It's like, but yeah, it'd be so like,
it has to be done subtle. Like, it has to be done subtle. Like, okay, this is the school I went to, maybe one homecoming, but every year, Jesus, I gotta go back see these people. They gotta tell me how they know me since I was this. It's like being at church. Like, so. I've even had parents like, well, my money is on, like, if you don't get a full, where my money is going. Like, And
they do that too with pledging to, like, well, you if you ain't making the right decision, you paying for this by yourself.
So think about it that way when you're thinking about the pressure that this kid is facing, like, and they're only honest with a consultant, right? Because I can't tell my mom, I can't tell my dad. Can't tell my aunt that's paying the bill that I don't really want to do what she wants me to do. So think about that. And that's a big part of it. Okay. They want to make you proud.
And just giving them the space, them the space to create it. I'm glad that you said that, because I'm hearing you say it and I'm just like, wow, that is an overwhelming amount of pressure. I tell my kids right now, Johnson C. Smith, that's it. And me and their mother argue all the time. It's like, well, they're gonna go to Howard, they're gonna go to Johnson C. Smith, and I'll be like,
and they're not gonna go to either.
Yeah, they're not gonna go to either. So I'm just gonna take Johnson C. Smith off the table now, so that it gives them an option later on. So,
but they're not gonna go to Howard because they live here. So, when you think about those spaces, that's a big issue. Another thing is the pressure of the full ride, right? Right now we talk about free, debt-free college, right? And this school gave you free, but you told me if I did my best all these years that I could go to any school, and I got in here and they gave me half, and this is really where I want to go. So those are the other waterwork tears. right? Because I don't want to go to I'm not going to call any school, but I don't want to go to school A over here. That's not my dream. That's why they're giving out free money. That's mostly what my students like. They can't get nobody. I don't want them. But I mean, so that pressure, so having those robust conversations with your student, with a consultant or with your high school counselor helps to figure out what you really can honestly do. So, hey, most of my clients say, hey, if you get into this school, well, how many scholarships are you willing to apply for? Well, I'm gonna apply for scholarships weekly because I've got to make up the rest of that money. Yep. So that's fine, right? To let that student live their dream, but don't put that pressure like, well, this was free. So that type of stuff is always a hindrance with kids.
But it's such an, like you said, we go back 17, this is your first adult decision, right? But this is an adult decision that can have lingering repercussions for a very, very long time. So where I used to say for the people that I work with, like, be like, well, well, if you're passionate about it, you can figure it out. Go there or whatever. Now, I honestly have to say it has changed. My experience with money has changed. And also knowing the experience that you can garner going to school, that some of it, I think you don't necessarily have to pay for it up front. Your first 2 years, primarily, you're literally doing liberal studies classes almost wherever you go, right? And it's just like, okay, well, imagine if you wanted to go to Howard, but you didn't have all of the money to pay for Howard, but you might be able to go to a community college for the first 2 years, get even more scholarship money, and then transfer over for your last 2 years and still have that experience. Of course, it's going to be different. You're not all for, but walking out, you might not have incurred the amount of debt, which is such a huge topic that's going on in the world right now. Student loan debt. So, now I say, try to make an emotional decision instead of making an emotional decision, try to look at it from a financial standpoint as well. But once again, that goes back to your point. It isn't something that you could, if we want the 17-year-old to make this decision, we have to start preparing them for those things to consider a little bit earlier, and imposing on them what comes later, because they're not thinking about debt.
And let me say something to one thing you just said. So a lot of people do say that now. Go to community college 2 years, take those liberal arts classes, and then transfer to this institution, this 4 year that you really love. So there's a caveat to that. Community colleges are set up to transfer to the state schools that the community colleges state. So when you're speaking of that situation that you just used in school, community colleges in New York, and now you go down here to DC, that might not be it might not transfer everything. So make sure that you're understanding, you're talking to, before you make that decision, you're having the college counselor and the college community transfer counselor and maybe the high school counselor look at if this is feasible for you. Or maybe that dream school that's too much has to come off the table. But I do want to make that distinction, because so many people throw that statement out now. But you're speaking of Howard, John C. Smith, Morehouse, Spelman. They are private institutions, right? Tulane, your Harvard, anywhere. Those are private institutions who do not accept everything. Same as schools that are very selective. That might be state schools. So they do not take all these community college credits all the time. So if we're using Prince George's County Community College, yes, my 2 years transfers directly into the University of Maryland. Absolutely. But that community college might not transfer to the University of Albany.
Gotcha.
So, distinction, because people say that blanketly so much, and we just want to make sure that people understand that's not it.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that too. And who is in the best position to help students and families to navigate that space, or to consider those things? So that's a great point. It's like, hey, that's a great strategy if you're staying in state, but like, who should families or students be reaching out to? I know you're one of them, obviously. So definitely reach out to Collegeprep365. Like, who should they be asking to have these conversations with?
So it's a kind of a loaded question, because I would say any independent education consultant, but do students know those people, right? There is a website, the IECA online.org would give you the people in your state if you wanted someone. And not to knock anything about the school systems, you can try your counselor and ask them to help you navigate that process. They might not know everything about it because, as you know, counselors have many hats right now, social worker, this, that, and third. So college kind of comes to somewhere it falls to the wayside a little bit, but they are the person that should be able to find the answer. If they can't get it right then, they don't know it, they can find it. But we help with that process, especially because that's how the profession became a profession. Then you can also reach out to those institutions. So it's the transfer coordinator, counselor, that's their name in the title. You look for that. At every community college, they have one. You can call it admissions for school A, the admissions, undergraduate admissions. Hey, I'm thinking about this. They might not be able to get to you in the busy season, but if you have to have that question now, it's a great time to ask that type of stuff. So counselors, admissions counselors, and the transfer counselor would be the best people.
Okay.
Don't just ask somebody that went there, like, oh, my aunt went there and she knows such and such doesn't do that process.
Yes.
So.
Yes. And it's going to sound salty with me saying this, but I know my guidance counselor strongly pushed me to community college and was just like, this is the option for you, Tyrell. It wasn't no other apply for these other things, right? And so that's why I was asking, who should the students and who should the families be speaking to make sure that someone's advocating for them the right ways, and that's not to
the parent. Okay. So sometimes you just have to do a little bit of research, right? Google has become our best friend, and so sometimes you can do your own research and go to the school and say, is this true for my student from this district, versus saying like, well, you ain't telling me about this. With that mindset, then that'll be helpful. Also, I would tell anyone to look at local events around college that are happening. Every city, state, country has something related to college. You have a Black College Expo, a Hispanic Caribbean Expo. You have your PWI, which is predominantly white. You're going to have some kind of fair. In there, you should be able to ask anyone that is working kind of questions, and they will be brutally honest because they don't know you, right? You bring an unofficial transcript. Hey, this is my situation. Boom, I have a 2.8. Maybe you can't get into my institution right now without maybe trying community college, but hey, here's some other institutions that you might be looking for, that might be looking for a student of your caliber. Because I know you're great, you just didn't maybe show it yet. All students are great. Sometimes they just, take a little longer. But yeah, so I mean, it's a tough question because I would never knock a counselor, but it's just not their profession.
Gotcha. I appreciate that diplomatic answer. It's a lot better than what I would say. So, I don't like hate mail. Yeah. So why'd you say this? And boo, 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 boo. So, but it was just like among my friends, and I got a lot of friends, you're one of them, but people will talk about their experiences, and that was a very common story that a lot of us had in regards to the deterrence that we felt that we received from some of our counselors. So, but I like your point. One, we have Google. We did not have Google for us. I know I didn't have Google. Right. So, but now you can find, there's the opportunities to be a lot more resourceful now than ever before. So definitely take the time to be resourceful, ask the right questions, and when in doubt, use Google.
Yeah, and some things I do want to highlight for you, if we're talking about like a high school parent or anyone listening who knows a high school student, a few things they should use is like collegeboard.org. Make that like something you check, not weekly, but maybe once a month, or every time you think about it. Or print out the old calendar, like maybe this year's calendar. So, because the calendar really doesn't change, right? So then we know that the PSAT is given in October. That's the one for national merit, right? People are like, oh, I took one. You didn't take the real one, right? So knowing that one, hey, my school's not offering it. Well, why not? finding out those things, or where can I go take it? That's when you get your score, if you'll be offered different kind of merit-based scholarships and different like that. Knowing the dates for the SAT or ACT, when they're coming, knowing when I have to submit my FAFSA, like that type of information is on that website, and it helps us to go and check our counselors or ask questions. Hey, are you going to have an event? Because, hey, I've never filled this form out before. So I know another parent probably has this same issue. Like, so you can ask your high school to do things. You know?
Question for you. To that point, a lot of universities have moved from there's a word for it and I can't think of it, but where they're not requiring you to do the SATs. What was it called?
I just said the word test. So test optional. There's different.
There you go. Test optional.
But most universities, a lot of universities did go test optional in the pandemic. The state of California does not require tests at all, right? The UC system, you have to fill out their application for the UC system. Apply Texas might not ask you for a score as well. But and however, and I want to say this twice, but and however, to receive merit-based money based on academics, you need a test. So maybe school A you're applying to doesn't need one, but B and C and E say we want a test. Schools like your prestigious Howards are never going to say we don't want to see your test score. So think about that when we make these decisions, because a lot of parents are like, oh, they don't need to test, no, they don't need to test, but then you can't apply for money. Right. So think about the scholarship. You sit on a couple of scholarship committees, right? You just said they ask for the SAT and ACT because they want to see a score. Right. So a lot of things in this world still need scores, but schools are test optional or require tests or test blind. Test blind means you can submit it, but I'm not going to look at it. Okay. But
you must really be blind if you can't see that. I'm not going to look at something you just gave me.
Yeah, because I mean, we're going to treat everybody equally on this playing field. Okay. But test optional helps if you're on the cusp, like they might not have brought you in here, but that test showed me okay. But I don't think students need to take 4 and 5 tests anymore. I think this is what it's helping to say, that you don't have to take as many as you used to. Take 1, maybe 2, and that was your best.
Okay.
And walk away. But you will not get any merit money if you don't.
Okay. All right. I'm going to shift here from college-based questions. Okay. I'm also going to give you what's called my round of rapid fire. These are random questions about things that are going on in the world, but it's fun for me to get a chance to see. I get a kick out of hearing your answers, and it lets me know a little bit more about you.
Hey, what if I don't know anything about these things?
Well, that's still going to let me know a lot about you. Good point. Good point. Oh, good point. Let me see. You should have an answer for most of these. Maybe not one that I'm thinking of, but all of these. First question is, who is your favorite artist of all time?
Oh man, I'm embarrassed to say.
It's probably gonna be Future. Something to the Moon. What's that song you used to have?
I Go to the Moon. That is my song, but it is Kanye West is my favorite artist of all time.
Okay. Yes. Okay. All right. Shout out to Kanye.
The old Kanye.
We missed the old Kanye. His guy is up in Albany now, man. AB is he just bought the arena football team. And I know he's still over there Donda Sports thing too. But yeah, he's up that way now. So shout out to your man Kanye. Totally understandable. What was this like? I want to keep it to myself.
Yeah, I usually do. I should have said Beyonce.
Your favorite sneaker of all time?
Like the brand or the actual sneaker?
The actual sneaker.
Okay, so I kind of have 2. So it's a Nike. It's either the Penny Hardaways, and then the Deion Sanders, the ones with the little bubbles on the side. I don't remember. Okay. But yeah, shoe game was nice in middle school.
Well, yeah, I mean, the shoe game is still there. I see you come out with some of your shoes from time to time. So I know it's still there, which is gonna let me lead right into this sneaker ball after this. But
Okay.
so I know it's not non-existent. I know you still got a sneaker game. Let me see. Favorite favorite place to visit and why?
It's two-part. My favorite place to visit is New Orleans for eating, and then my favorite place to visit in the summer is Chicago. It's so beautiful. And then if you say international, the Netherlands. It's amazing.
Okay. Taking notes. Uh, that actually leads to the next one. Favorite cheat meal. I know you said you go to New Orleans because of the food, but if you were to think, what is a cheat meal or a meal that makes you happy? What's your favorite go-to meal?
Well, I'm a Maryland girl, so crabs, baby. Old crab, blue crab, cracking everything. And the mixed up sauce.
Listen, it is a science to that, and I did not even learn that until I went to somewhere. What was it? Martin's Catering, where we got married at. That whole, they do this thing every year, and I'm just like, yeah, Crab Fest. There you go. And I'm just like, man, it's like they looking at me like I'm real slow. They like, you gotta break this in the middle. You gotta do this, and I'm just like, that's too much.
We know
work.
when you're not from here, when you ask for the mallet or the crab, not open it. It's crab. So yeah, love a crab.
Okay, all right. So you gave me favorite artist. You gave me favorite shoe. Favorite actor of all time.
I don't know if I have a favorite actor of all time. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna leave you. I'm gonna leave you with the fire question then.
Okay.
Should Lori Harvey have left Michael B. Jordan? Why? Why not?
Absolutely. Boom. Follow your passion, baby. Although I love moon. But yeah, keep it moving.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. I respect that.
Though, yeah.
I respect that. Well, thank you for indulging me with my rapid fire questions. I'm going to get to my last bit of serious questions for you as well.
Let me put my
this is probably one of my favorite questions to ask everyone that's on the podcast, because everyone has their own unique answer to it. But if you were to define success, Dr. Ebonee, how would you define success for you?
Okay, define success. For me, mine is probably totally different than anybody else's, but for me, success looks like happiness. And it's just that simple for me. Success looks like giving, and that's what makes me happy. There's no dollar amount, there's no accolade, there is nothing but pouring into others that makes me happier. Like, I know my day, I did what I was supposed to do that day if I can pour into someone else. And it doesn't have to be a student, it could be anything, friendship or anything like that. But the happiness is everything for me.
I love it. And for you, huh?
And that's why I'll probably always be broke. So I just
Yeah, definitely got to find a balance, which I was about to ask, because giving it all away is a pretty good recipe. Yeah, how do you find a healthy work-life balance, especially as an entrepreneur, with family, with friends, with building a brand, a business? How do you find a healthy work-life balance for you?
So I used to work in employee labor relations in the federal government, and I was in charge of work-life balance. So I'm very good at finding work-life balance in my newfound life. But honestly, it's just setting boundaries. I don't do certain things after a certain time. If you see me out, you can't ask me a college prep question. I don't engage in conversation out about college in general. Like, everyone wants to tell me their story about college, right? And then I say, I just bring up the issue of like, hey, do you want me to ask you a question about taxes? Do you want me to ask you a question about IT? And people start to understand, like, oh, I get it. So you have to make sure that your friend circle and your family understand, that's my job now. So I don't know about that. But also having hard cutoffs, like, you can't call me after 8 p.m. and ask me anything. This is my time. Just setting boundaries and is really huge for me in this line of work. as you're building, because sometimes you do work longer, but I'm working alone longer. I'm not going to work tonight at 12 o'clock. So just boundaries. Okay. And being okay with it, because at first I used to bend like, oh, well, maybe Tyrell called me and I have to get up and do this. No, Tyrell can wait till tomorrow.
Yeah.
So yeah, really boundaries.
Yeah. I just put my phone on do not disturb now.
I don't do that. I don't like that.
Yeah. I didn't like it for a long time because I always wanted people to have access to it, to me. And then for a while I couldn't. My mom got sick. So just needed it on. But to go to boundaries is very important. So now, at 8:30 for the most part, I'll go ahead and hit mines on do not disturb. I was in a literal conversation with somebody, with Rob from Smith, and at 8:30 I just hit the do not disturb button. Right now, mind you, we chatting. So I woke up in the morning and he was just like, "Yo, bro." He called me. He says, "I have never in my life had anyone ever just ghost me in the middle of the conversation," and it just said do not disturb. I'm like, bro, it's 8:30. I shut off. I'm putting the kids down. I'm hopping into bed myself. So when you say boundaries and being comfortable, stick to it.
Yeah, it gives you peace though, right? For different things. Like I'm hard on like kids, especially on Sunday morning, like church is important to me, right? So no, I can't waver and take you this Sunday. And then next Sunday when I say, oh, I can't do it because of church, I didn't set my boundaries last week. So I'm making sure that stuff is important. I go to Target after church. So no, I'm not coming home right after.
I got a plan.
Right. So figuring those things out. Yeah.
Okay. All right. My bread and butter for you. One of the reasons why I wanted you on when I got you on is because coming up in May, you have one of your signature events, and I think that it is spectacular. I think that it is important, and I think that it is necessary. So please tell us where did the idea for College Prep 365 come as it pertains to doing the sneaker ball? How can we find it? How do we buy tickets for it? And when is it happening this year? Boom.
All right. So yeah. Kicking it up for teens, the scholarship fundraiser came about, what was that, 2018, having a conversation about a friend, like, I'm gonna throw a gala, like, it's gonna be okay, I'm gonna throw this, I don't have to be a name. And then she's like, do a sneaker ball, nobody's doing that yet. But now we know everybody's doing a sneaker ball, right? And we said we needed to give it something different. So kicking it was the big part of the whole scholarship piece, because we were already doing book scholarships and we wanted to make sure that we could give more. Like if we're going to advertise it to the public, we got to give more than 500 each student. So that's how it was like, all right, we're going to kick it and people are going to come and have a good time, but really be in a gala setting where people are like, oh, I've never been to a gala, but now you have. And you can be comfortable at this gala and you're going to eat a whole meal. You don't got to hold your little plate. But anyway, so Kicking Up for Teens came about from Christina Hardy, who works for Bumble, one of their lead marketing people, who she made the idea up and we ran with it. We tried to have it the week of DC proms so that they already have a dress or a suit. So it makes it easier that they don't have to buy some outfits. And you can find it on collegeprep365.com/gala. You can donate. We accept all donations, $2, $5, $1 million, whatever you got, we'll take it. But we want to let people know the biggest thing is that 73% of that goes to the student. The only part that we don't keep anything at College Prep for the gala at all. The rest of it, is a plated dinner. So we're paying for the dinner part, but all your money goes to those students. And we try to give students, we try to award at least 5 to 6 students a year. And to date, we've given away 47,000 in these few years. This is the 5th year. So we're very excited about continuing to give, because this year we had 547 applicants. Oh, it's hard to turn away students, but we want to make sure that, students are getting money and we're closing that financial gap so that they do walk out of college debt free, or at least start their first year being debt free, because our goal is to teach people that once you're on that campus, you should be able to find money. We're going to get you there. with this money, but now it's on you to use your resources once you get there. So yeah, back to what you asked me, Kicking It Up for Teens, May 11th, Thursday night at 6:30. We love to see you. We love to have your support. If you're ever in DC, come to it. It's around it's the second Thursday every year.
Yep. And I have had the privilege and honor of attending both in person and virtual. I have to say, Kicking It Up
Virtual
for
is
Teens.
better, right?
Listen. I was about to say, I have to say, even the virtual one was dope. I mean, they had 2 different DJs. I think we had food delivered to our house. Yeah. So, and shout out to you, shout out to your team. Because even during COVID, and that was a highlight for us here in the Hughes household. We made a date night of it. Downstairs was all set up for kicking it up for teens. And like I said, we had our food delivered. And even when everyone else was struggling with ideas of how do we reconnect, you still pushed through and was able to deliver something that, like you said, some people even thought the virtual one was better than live. So it was nice. I've been able to go and enjoy, and I highly recommend. Not only do you donate, but if you are in the DC metro area or coming from out of town, come in, have a good time. For me, I'm at home because sneakers. I'm home in my comfort attire, so I get to put on a nice top half and then have my J's or something on my feet, and it's always nice to compare my shoes to other people. So
a lot of people like that aspect, and just also what our biggest reason for having it with the students there to actually see where your money goes. It's a difference when someone continues to ask you like donate, and you don't see the students, but that's why we try to connect. So the students are there, you can ask them questions. Like we just had one that went over Delta this weekend, and we all got to go over to Bowie, and she was the virtual, her and the mom were dancing on the virtual one. But yeah, it was just good to see like full circle where she's going. She keeps us updated. And like I said, it's just 47,000 because that date we announced one number of maybe like something small like 2,000. But when we go home and run all the numbers, all that money goes to these students, and we're just so blessed to continue to do it. And hopefully we can get through this year. So
well, I'm sure you will. Thank you for continuing to push. Thank you for providing and being an asset and resources for not only students, but for their families. I'm going to leave you with this final question because I want people to utilize you as a resource, and someone's going to give it to you straight and honest. How do my listeners find you on social media? I know you did reference the website for Collegeprep365, but please, one last shot, a one-ditch effort to go ahead and tell us all of the places that we can find Dr. Ebonee.
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at collegeprep365. Website, collegeprep365.com. You can email me at info@collegeprep365.com. And anytime you put in College Prep 365 in Google, we're going to come up. So any way you want to find us, we're available, Facebook, Twitter, all of those great things. So yeah, give us a follow. We don't really answer DM, but we'll try.
Don't be sliding in my DM.
Yeah, my interns be like, I don't know how to answer that. So we don't like to answer questions in DM. So
Okay, fair enough. Well, listen, Dr. Ebonee Mayo-Mitchell, I am extremely proud of you. I am extremely honored to be able to partake in your events, and I wish you nothing but continued success moving forward. I hope this year is the best year. Yeah, man, I just want to say thank you for the work that you've done. Thank you for the work that you do. And thank you for being a positive advocate for education. Thanks for being on the Back Community.
Thank you for everything. Everyone, this was my RA in college.
I was your RA. Why are we forgetting that? Listen,
I know, it's important to me. It's important to my college. But thank you so much for having me. And thanks to all that are watching or listening.
Well, listen, Dr. Ebonee, I'll play catch up with you later. Thank you, and look forward to seeing you next month.
All right.
Deuces.
All right.
Keep climbing up the ladder. Black lives matter. They matter. So all you young people, give me your all. So all you young people, give it y'all. So all you young people, give it y'all. So all you young people, give it y'all. Matter, matter. A Black Lives Matter. They matter, they matter. A Black Lives Matter.